Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Insights and Innovation sessions. And here today we have our good friends at IAS and one of my personal favorite human beings in the world, Harrison, who's part of the Big Head Club as well. You and me, we're in there together. Um, Harrison's going to be talking us through driving performance in the holiday period, key period for retail. So, Harrison, over to you.
Thanks, Sam. I did notice up in Cairns, Sam and I could not find a hat to fit our heads. So if anybody's doing merch for next year, big hats would be a very good one. But like Sam said, thank you for so much for joining us on the webinar today. We're going to be running through thinking around some of the risks that come up around big seasonal and holiday events, the impacts of AI on media buying for better and for worse, and how at IAS we're developing to meet the needs of modern digi agencies. But before I rip into all of that, just to introduce myself and IAS. I love having a giant photo of my giant head up on screen, but I'm Harrison. I'm on a customer success team with IAS and particularly looking after indie agencies, both here and across the ditch in New Zealand. And I work for Integral Ad Science. We're a global verification company. Our products fall into three key pillars. We have measurement for agencies looking to protect your brands and verify where your investment is going across all the key digital formats and devices. We have optimization solutions. A big piece of feedback we keep getting in market is that you need to think more about business outcomes than just traditional media KPIs. So we've got solutions to help automate that, targeting high-performing, contextually relevant inventory. And lastly, publisher solutions, which might seem like a weird one to talk about to the IMAA, a group of agencies. But we're not just catering to the buy side, we're working with key publishers in market, so CTV publishers, key news providers, to make sure that everyone's speaking the same language, working towards the same outcomes. But we're not just a global company of Americans dropping in. We've been in market for about 10 years now. We work with a whole lot of key brands in market and key independent agencies. We've got partnerships with the lovely Sam and team here at the IMAA, as well as across the ditch publishers in market like News Corp, Binge, and R Media. And lastly, every tech platform you'd expect from a large company nowadays. But we're going to be thinking specifically about something everybody apparently has been thinking about for months. I'm apparently the last one on earth who has not started Christmas shopping, but everybody has been getting into this for a while. And as marketers, as media buyers, you know that this is a time of attention and competition. Everyone has probably been on Black Friday doing all the shopping, buying all the things we don't really need but looked really shiny. It's Cyber Monday today, and that's particularly where I'm going to clean up on. But this has been actually going for quite a while already. Most people this year, so 73% said they're keeping their budgets or increasing them for Christmas shopping. And particularly, it's been starting earlier and earlier. People as far back as August are saying they're thinking about Christmas, which is making me feel a little stressful. Uh, and it's being digi-driven now as well. More and more of this is starting and ending on digital channels. So 57% of all consumers in Australia are saying that mobile is going to be their number one shopping device for the Christmas and holiday season. So gone are the days of thinking just about your big linear campaigns, but now it is how do you get people on their phones while they're scrolling through TikTok, while they're looking at Instacart, whatever that is. And big days are driving this all year, whether it was at Prime Day earlier in the year, seeing 19% year-on-year growth, where Australia actually led the way globally. Even things like Black Friday and Cyber Monday last year, seeing a 3% increase in retail turnover. There's big dollars floating around at these big key hallmark events. And that's all lining up with holiday content. I'm sure we are all sick of Mariah Carey already, Michael Bublé songs. One of our team members, Chloe, has had a Christmas tree up since the start of November, but it's not letting up. If you're a Grinch like me, we have another month to bear of this all the way through to the 31st of December. This is peak holiday season time. So what does that all mean? There's a massive amount of content, there's a massive amount of spend, and a massive amount of attention that you're fighting for. The opportunity for agencies as media buyers has never been bigger for you, particularly in that digital space. But unfortunately, what we see at IAS is wherever there's a big opportunity digitally, there's often risks behind that. We see these trends go along with big events all throughout the year, whatever they are. Particularly last year, we were reporting on MFA. If you're not up on your trendy media buzzword acronyms, MFA is made for advertising content. So that's where people are paying for traffic. They've got an AI generated article about the top 10 celebrities. You won't believe where they are now. And it's generally not useful media, as we're going to get into later. But last Christmas, we saw 50% more MFA content, more things designed to get your spend and not much else on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, particularly. So when hopefully we're all off having a much deserved break, that's something in the back of the mind of your Christmas campaigns, your Boxing Day campaigns. And why that's flooding so much is because there's a massive amount of impressions and views and attention, but content is exploding to keep up with that. There is more content than there's ever been. There's more things online than ever before. AI slop was Macquarie Dictionary's word of the year for a reason. Statista put out that they think last year 149 zettabytes of information was created, consumed, captured, copied across the internet. A zettabyte is massive. It's a trillion gigabytes. And they think that in a couple of years' time, it's going to more than double, which is a huge amount of data. And some boffin can probably understand that. But for the rest of us who might struggle to picture that a little bit, that's 3 trillion iPhones worth of data. 3 trillion, 128 gigabyte iPhones to capture all the information we produce just in 1 year. And if that isn't enough, if you stacked those in, crammed them into every nook and cranny, that's 1,000 opera houses full of phones, full of data every single year. And that's not all prestige TV shows or hard-hitting journalism or literary masterpieces. That is this AI slop content we're all becoming more and more familiar with. And at IAS, we've had to work hard to keep up with this, even at the time I've been at the company. A couple of years ago, we were seeing 2 years worth of video content a day, which is already a massive amount. But we've been really investing into this space. Video and digital content is becoming bigger and bigger. And so last year, we classified 10 years worth of content, grew that 5 times. But already this year, it's up to 50 years worth of content per day that we're seeing. We've been scaling a solution here because this is becoming more and more critical for media buyers to get right. But a question for you to think about, if you're in a boardroom with some of your team members, or if you're watching alone, just have a think, how much of the internet do you think is going to be AI generated next year? This is, when I was giving this sort of slide earlier in the year, that felt like we had a little bit of time, but 2026 is 30 days away. By then, how much do you think is going to be AI generated? 30% or 90% or 100% of it? eMarket is predicting 90%. 90%, 9 out of 10 pieces of content you see on the internet that you're advertising next to could be AI generated. No person, no real writer or video producer or filmer, just computers funneling us content. And that leads to a big decision point. Independent agencies represent a huge proportion of the market, a huge proportion of investment spend in Australia. And what do you want that spend to be going towards? Do we want trusted content on the internet? Things of editorial oversight with disclosures, with responsible use of AI tools? Or do we want 1,200 AI slop articles generated every single day, like the MIT Tech Review published? Jounce as well published a report backing this up. Every single day, new and more AI content is published because they're playing into media KPIs. The reason we call it made for advertising content is because it's trying to profit off the system we've set up. So DSPs, for example, really benefit recent content. You want that breaking news story to appear next to. So if you publish 1,200 AI articles every single day, you can really game towards a lot of those inbuilt KPIs, inbuilt biases. And that's where we're going to really focus in on what this AI content is. Are we just at IAS being doomers about this? We think AI is bad and it's rubbish in every case. Well, we want to be specific about this. It's not just bad because it's AI, but what it is bad for your media spend, is bad for your brands. This is an example of one of those sites. You can see on there the dirty secret behind iCloud 6 minutes ago. It was published. Acer Swift laptop 4 minutes ago. NVIDIA's market share 7 minutes ago. Smart speaker, smart beagle, dog uses Alexa 11 minutes ago. I would definitely be looking at the dog using Alexa, but none of these is real content. Every hour on the hour, these sites just churn out more and more articles that nobody's read and that nobody really wants to look at. And particularly, a lot of these sites are trying to be misleading. On the left is a real site, houseandgarden.co.uk. Two ads, a billboard and a skyscraper, fairly reasonable, a good article. But on the right, houseandgarden.co is trying to borrow off that credibility, cram way more ads in with stretched out content that's been through AI to make it longer and refresh rates of every 15 seconds. And so this is what we're getting at, is that there's not just a problem with the content, but put marketing next to that means that you're in a much less worse position to drive outcomes. And we see three key risks from that. AI slop is bad for your brands to advertise next to because it's low engagement. We have a bunch of figures that we're going to get to around how much worse performance outcomes are on AI sites. There's a reputational risk as well. Consumers don't trust cheap, spammy content. And lastly, a lot of this is just being funneled back to fraud. Even if it starts as legitimate traffic, it's getting used to prop up fraudulent outcomes, which leads to the fallout. Why is this an issue? Why should you care about this at a key time like Christmas? We don't care where the inventory is coming from. We just want to buy something cheap. Well, the ANA is predicting that there's going to be 10 billion spent on MFA or slop sites every single year. And you can imagine that's only going to grow as that content grows across it. And at IAS, as we've started reporting on MFA sites, we actually see they have a 25% worse cost per conversion. And that's cost per conversion, but it's not just saying they perform worse, but also even with how cheap they can be, they still don't make up for that in volume. But the tricky thing about MFA is that it's actually designed to look quite appealing to your programmatic setup. Viewability is something that IAS has been doing for quite a while. It's been set in industry for about 10 years, but we found that MFA sites actually do better. Those clickbait articles of where those celebrities from 2004 are really engaging. But if you're one of 12 ads that refreshes every 15 seconds, no amount of viewability is going to help there. Whereas a lot of people in market have been talking about attention. As we look at our attention measurement for MFA sites, high attention scores will drove 227% increase in success rate compared to low attention. You can imagine what a 227% uplift would do for your campaigns or for your PCAs. And similarly, conversion rates for quality sites versus MFA sites. Quality sites drove 245% higher conversion rates. Being in the right place, telling the right story is massive on digital channels, especially at these times of year. But I think actually the thing underneath that and why it drives those outcomes is trust. We've talked about trusted media for almost as long as IAS has existed. And consumers know bad things when they see them. 70% of consumers say that they'll lose trust in brands appearing next to low quality, spammy sites like MFA sites or like ad clutter sites. And as we mentioned earlier, there's big risk around these events. Whenever we see that uptick in volumes, in overall impressions, eyeballs up for grabs, whether that was Prime Day earlier in the year, between Black Friday and Cyber Monday or Christmas Day, there's a massive uplift in MFA activity. And we see that as well with other events like the World Cup coming up next year, major elections, other events as well. But is this all doom and gloom? Is your media spend wasted? You may as well pack up your campaigns already and not run anything. Thankfully, AI is not just a bad thing. AI is also a large part of the solution for this as well. We've been investing in machine learning for a long time around this, trying to build out models that can see both MFA as well as other signals on pages, the ads to content ratio, how quickly ads refresh, repetitive language, templated layouts. We're using machine learning to actually detect machine learning content. And as always, we want to be nuanced about this because we don't just want to say, let us tell you everything that's right and wrong. We think about it being a spectrum from low to high quality. The very worst of this is what the ANA defines as MFA, particularly where there's that buying of traffic, paying for impressions to come through to monetize off that. That's how made for advertising has been defined in industry, and we think that's the worst outcome here. But in the middle is also a whole bunch of other activity online that's not really going to perform for you. In an age where you're getting cut budgets and asked to do more with less, sites where you're one of 12 ads that refresh every 15 seconds with a terrible experience aren't going to cut it anymore. But getting that quality, verified, transparent media is where you're going to perform the best at these key moments. Quality sites convert 91% higher than even just ad clutter sites, not taking into account the MFA at the very bottom end of it. But that all being said, it's a Monday, well, just become the Monday afternoon. It's for silly season where a lot of you are probably a bit dustier than even Sam is at the moment. What are the three things to take away from this? First is just that quality media wins the moment. We're in a season of big moments. It's Cyber Monday today, and I'm sure a bunch of you are trafficking campaigns in the background around that. We have Christmas and Boxing Day coming up, and then further afield, the World Cup next year is going to be massive, even just things like Easter, like Australia Day. Those big moments where there's much more traffic, you need quality media in those key moments. The second point, that AI is changing not just how we hire, not just how we make creatives, not just how we look at LinkedIn content, but as media buyers, how are you buying and what are you buying? So having up-to-date things to keep up with that massive explosion of content is key. And lastly, just that at IAS, we're looking to drive value for your brand agencies and for the brands you represent, not just for today, but tomorrow and beyond as well. As there's an increasingly busy calendar of those key events, trying to measure and optimize to get the best value for your brands is key. And it's something we want to talk to your agencies about to help you get on top of that digital media buy. But all that being said, thank you so much for joining us on this. If you want to see more about any of those case studies, if you want to think about how IAS can be helping your agencies, please scan the QR code and reach out to us. We'd love to get in touch if we aren't already. And with that, I'll hand back to the wonderful Sam Buchanan.
Thank you, Harrison, my big-headed brother. I appreciate it. Yes, we need bigger hats for everyone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, IAS, for just being wonderful members of the independent community and your support, and also Jess is on the line as well. So thank you for your support throughout the year. Thank you, members, for tuning in. Remember, next week, I think we've got Mama Madge coming in to talk to us, and we look forward to talking to everyone soon. Stay safe. Talk soon. Bye, guys.